with the marquee game from last night in the NBA. The Golden State Warriors and the Brooklyn Nets, a potential finals preview given how hot both of these two teams have been. The Warriors, of course, already had the best record in the NBA, and in the Western Conference, the Brooklyn Nets had the second best record at the time, just behind the Washington Wizards. And these two teams collided yesterday. And the Warriors sent shockwaves through the NBA, collecting a huge statement win, 117-99 on the road. Steph Curry was absolutely sensational. 37 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds, 9 of 14 from three-point line in 29 minutes, 12 of 19 from the floor. But it's so funny to me how quickly things can turn, how quickly we can kind of forget about the past. I remember I used to be an overnight camp counselor, and there was kind of a common feeling shared amongst all of the counselors that the days always felt so long. They were so exhaustive and they were so laborious that days felt like months because every single second just felt like hours. But then you look back, and at the end of the 2 months that you're there, those months felt like days because you kind of gloss over the amount of time that's transpired because you're now focused on the novelty of the present and on what today has in store. And for the first time in several years, that feeling of feeling like you can look back at a sports team, at a sports moment, and gloss over the last couple of years, expedite that process to focus on the now. This was the first time in years that I felt that way watching specifically this Golden State Warriors team last night. Because to watch where they came from, it's amazing how much you forget the journey that this specific organization has gone on. If you chronicle where the Warriors were just 2 years ago to where they are now, it's incredible. It's incredible because they had that run of 5 straight trips to the NBA Finals that unfortunately was capped off by a KD ruptured Achilles, a Klay Thompson torn ACL, KD leaving, Steph Curry breaking his wrist within the first 2 games of the next season. It's a tank. They get the number 2 pick. Then Klay Thompson ruptured his Achilles. And then all of a sudden, you think it's going to be another wash season, and Steph Curry leads the Warriors on this incredible run. They burst back onto the scene. They make a late push towards the end of the year. And now this year, they've got the best record in the NBA at 12-2. And it's funny because, once again, now they're topped by the depth that they're showing, and they're perched at the very top of the NBA, on the top and the pinnacle of the NBA standings, just like they were 2 years ago. But the interesting thing about the Warriors is they're reminding us, and last night was a perfect example of why, they're reminding us just why we came to love this team. Because everything, and they're reminding us of that 2014, 2015 Warriors roster in particular that was spearheaded by Steph Curry, who was the lead engine, lead captain on that squad. And the interesting thing is, during those runs, what made that Warriors team so special, and we're seeing the same signs of it now, obviously was the greatness of Steph Curry. You were seeing that. Draymond and Klay, who Klay's obviously not currently on the team, but you had the confidence. You had the ball movement. You had the cutting. You had the backdoor cutting. You had the 4, 5, 6 picks cutting. You had Steph Curry moving all over the court. The ball movement, the unselfishness, the high quality of shots, the showmanship, and then the depth. Those teams had not only Steph, they had Klay, they had Draymond, they had Sean Livingston coming off the bench. You had Leandro Barbosa, you had Maurice Spates, Ian Clark for different stretches. Andrew Bogut, Harrison Barnes. This team was legitimately 10, 11, 12 deep. You look at the roster now, and you got Jordan Poole, who is thriving, who was one of my breakout players coming into this year. Toscano Anderson, Gary Payton has been playing well. Otto Porter, James Wiseman isn't even back yet. And this team possesses that same scintillating style of basketball. They still possess the same electricity, the still explosiveness from their best player. The ball movement, the passing is crisp. The defense is the number one rated defense in the NBA. That was one of the underrated calling cards of that championship and finals team several years ago, was their defensive prowess. They've returned to that form now. And all these guys are absolutely fearless, and it all emanates at the top of the head from Steph Curry. The confidence that he plays sprinkles down to the rest of the team, permeates throughout that locker room, throughout the players, throughout the coaches, throughout the coaching staff, throughout the executives. That's the type of impact that a guy like Steph Curry can have on a roster and a franchise. And last night, you saw the depth because Steph Curry was having to battle with some foul trouble a little bit, especially in the third quarter. And when he exited the game, by the time he returned, the lead had expanded, which had been the staple of the Warriors, those championship runs, especially the first couple years in 2014, 2015, and 2015, 2016. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, the starters would go to the bench. They come back after their usual second kind of quarter mid-game break, and the lead has ballooned in their favor. That's what made them so dynamic. That's what made them so special. And we're seeing that once again now. And Steph Curry is, of course, the catalyst behind it. He's the lead front runner for league MVP, even though it's just 14 games or 15 games for some teams into the NBA season. And he's been on such a torrid pace. And you look at his last 5 games, and again, this is no knock on Nikola Jokic. I said this last year, that I thought Steph Curry should have won league MVP last year for the impact that he was having on that Golden State Warriors team. People just wanted to dismiss it, or they wanted to emphasize kind of the first quarter of the season and not focus on the types of performances he was turning out the second half of the season. Not that Nikola Jokic wasn't worthy of that MVP, because he certainly was. He had a fantastic year, but to me, Steph was clearly the best player. And over his last 5 games, he's 37-7-5, 24-6-10, 44-5, 25-5-6, and 57-10. The guy's been stupendous. And it just goes to show the type of impact that him raining threes can have on opposing arenas. Barclays felt like there were more Golden State Warriors fans than the Brooklyn Nets fans. Now, I think part of it is, even though the Brooklyn Nets have been good this year, 10-5, there's still this cloud, there's still this shadow hanging over them with the uncertainty of Kyrie Irving and whether or not he will actually return to the team. I'm surprised that he's still gone from the team, but that's certainly playing a role into why the Brooklyn Nets have looked the way they look. James Harden, he's good. He's a great player, but he hasn't had the same profound impact that we've seen in the past. But today isn't about what the Golden State, what the Brooklyn Nets didn't do. Last night was about what the Golden State Warriors did do. And they have looked spectacular all year, and it's all because of this one 6'3" individual. And just, this is the best team in the NBA right now. I predicted that this would be the team to reach the Western Conference Finals, to face off against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. Right now, that's not even looking like a good pick. Right now, it's looking like the favorite should be the Warriors, the way that they're playing. And they're just reminding us, again, this is why we fell in love with the team, because everyone rallied around Steph. They didn't have KD at the time. They weren't this juggernaut offensively because of an offseason signing. They were a juggernaut offensively because of the players that they developed within their system. And that's something that's special to watch, and it's special to be reminded of a couple years later when people thought there was no chance that was going to happen, because they had just accrued asset after asset after pick, traded for Andrew Wiggins, kind of serving that Harrison Barnes role to a lesser degree. And it's been fun to watch. And last night was a perfect example of why that was the case.